at the Tempest Act 3, Scene 2, and we left off in Act 1 with the plot for to take Prospero's life, induced by Caliban. So Caliban has demonstrated his wickedness at this point. It's been revealed. Note that up to this point, Caliban has been placed under sort of a house arrest and has been punished. I think on the purpose, from the vantage point of Prospero, in order to reform him. He's trying to get him to get, here's the consequences of bad actions to make you a better individual, but he's unreformable, and now he seeks to murder Prospero, and Ariel has, witnessed this and is bringing the news back to Prospero. So that plot is afoot, and the possibility of tragedy is there, although truthfully, because of the circumstances, I don't think we have any fear that it will actually come about. So it's much less of a threat than in A Midsummer Night's Dream or in Measure for Measure, where in both cases I think there was a real possibility that tragic circumstances would ensue. We're in Act 3, Scene 3, pardon me. And we will shift scene to the some of the Italians that are elsewhere on the island now. So Alonso, Sebastian, Antonio, Gonzalo, Adrian, Francisco, etc. So these are, once again, not Sebastian. Yes, so Alonso is the king of Naples, Sebastian, his brother, Antonio, Prospero's brother, and Gonzalo, it's just the old counselor. And then there's Adrian and Francisco as well, but these are just lords. They're minor characters. But those characters then. So now we go from the young men to the more noble characters, except for Ferdinand. Ferdinand, the Duke, the King of Naples' son, is already with Miranda, etc., separated from this group. So now we shift scene to them. And remember that Prospero is going to want to work with these characters as well. As the dramaturge figure, it's becoming apparent that everything that's happened is happening at his behest and under his direction. He's the dramaturge figure, which is trying to bring about things. And it's already obvious because of the interactions between Ferdinand and Miranda that, to our surprise, Prospero wants his daughter to be married to the King of Naples' son, even though they've not yet even met. This is part of his reconciliation. His grace to that family is that they're going to marry, and this is what you do with warring tribes: is you marry your daughter to the son of your enemy, and thereby you bring about peace. But we also see that this is not being done in an imperialist sort of way. The two love each other. Miranda and Ferdinand are clearly besotted with each other, and although Prospero has orchestrated it, they are not unwilling parties. So it's not just like some transactional thing. And that presents it very differently than if you look back to Much Ado About Nothing, where the father says, I want you to marry this guy. And she says, no, I don't want to marry him. I want to marry him. And what ensues is this power struggle between the two. And both of them seem to love their choices just simply because they're choices. There's no merit to it. There's no grace in it. There's no love in it even. It's just willfulness and threatened execution there as a possibility. Anyway, Act 3, Scene 3, and Gonzalo speaks first, the old counselor. Fire Lacan, I can go no further, sir. My old bones aches. Here's a maze trod indeed through forthrights and meanders. By your patience, I needs must rest me. And then Alonso, the king. O Lord, I cannot blame thee, who am myself attached with weariness to the dulling of my spirits. Sit down and rest. Even here I will put off my hope and keep it no longer for my flatterer. He is drowned whom thus we stray to find, and the sea mocks our frustrate search on land. Well, let him go. And then Antonio aside to Sebastian, I am right glad that he's so out of hope. Do not for one repulse forego the purpose that you resolve to effect. Now remember, they want to mutiny as well. So there's two plots afoot, one against Prospero and the other against the king of Naples. And Prospero is aware of both plots and attempts to execute the rightful lord. And all of these are mirrors of what happened to him at the outset of the play when he was usurped by his brother at the behest of the king of Naples. So there's a teaching moment in here about tyranny and about usurpation and about hierarchy and the right conduct in the place of opportunity. How should we respond? And then Antonio back to Sebastian, or Sebastian aside to Antonio, the next advantage will we take thoroughly. And then back to him, let it be tonight, for now they are oppressed with travail. They will not, nor cannot use such vigilance as when they are fresh. They're tired and weary, they're old men, let's get them while they're tired. And then aside to Antonio, I say tonight, no more. And then solemn and strange music, and Prosper on the top, invisible. So I don't know how this would be staged, but there's a platform there in the theater in the round to this day in Shakespeare. So he's probably up above, looking down with Ariel, a spiritual being, something like we see in Midsummer Night's Dream as well. Now we have a man acting, though, with the power of his books and his arts. Remember, the one thing that was emphasized by the monster Caliban is that when you go kill him, make sure you first take his books. You have to deprive him of his arts. If you don't deprive him of his arts, then we can't overthrow him. You must do that and make sure you burn those books. So strong emphasis on his arts. And I've already talked about his arts and his books which represent them as a way of engaging with the natural world. Cultivation deals with the dominion mandate, the application of the intellect to the world around us, commanded by God in Genesis 1:28 to exercise dominion over the earth, and seen through the cultivation not just of the soil but of the mind. And the books are the repository of all of that learning which is passed from generation to generation. And Prospero is a master of the liberal arts who is using that in such a way as to gain power over nature, but in conjunction with God's will. So it's not just power. It's not just like Sir Francis Bacon, who wants to take the natural world and exploit it for the purposes of power, because Bacon does, and Western science does lean in that direction. Baconian science presents nature as something that is to be effectively raped. That is their language, and like to get something and forcibly extract from nature its secrets. And that's not Prospero's take, but Shakespeare will be aware of this. And there's no such language here on Prospero's part. It's more of the old humanities tradition of let's discover what God has placed in the natural world for us to restore the ruins of our first parents. And so Prospero sees all these things, and Alonso, in response to the strange music that is heard, solemn and strange music, Alonso hears it and says, "What harmony is this? My good friends, hark!" And then Gonzalo, "Marvelous, sweet music." And then enter several strange shapes, bringing in a banquet. Is that what it says? I just says banquet in mine, but yes, but I think banquet is what's meant. And dance about it with gentle actions of salutations, and inviting the king, etc., to eat, they depart. So in the midst of all this, the way in which this is greeted, this potential mutiny and the plotted murder of the king, is the messianic banquet, if you will, or a version of this in naturalistic terms. So it's like the gospel is the banquet and an invitation to the table and the invitation to come and eat and be forgiven and all that. So that note that Shakespeare uses this at this point, right in the midst of the mutiny, like it says in Psalm 23. Lord is my shepherd. He brings me in the midst of my enemies. You prepare a table before me. Right in the midst of my enemies. There you go. And Alonso, give us kind keepers. Heavens, what were these? A living drollery. Now I will believe that there are unicorns, that in Arabia there is one tree, the phoenix's throne, one phoenix at this hour reigning there. So he believes in miracles. Mythological beasts like the unicorn and the phoenix. And Antonio, I'll believe both. And what does else want credit? Come to me, and I'll be sworn 'tis true. Travelers ne'er did lie, though fools at home condemn him. And then Gonzalo, the wise counselor, if in Naples I should report this now, would they believe me? If I should say I saw such islanders, for certes, these are people of the island, who, though they are of monstrous shape, yet note their manners are more gentle, kind, than of our human generation you shall find many, nay, almost any. And then Prospero, as an aside, and again, probably up above in a balcony of some sort, honest Lord, thou hast said well, for some of you there present are worse than devils. Thinking of his enemies in the midst of all this, speaking of them justly, and yet is going to visit them with grace. So there's a sort of a gospel-like interaction here, but a right assessment of their character in Prospero's speech. And they don't hear this, of course. Now, Alonso, I cannot too much muse such shape, such gesture, and such sound expressing, though they want the use of tongue, a kind of excellent dumb discourse. Praise in departing, they vanished strangely. No matter, since they have left their viands behind, for we have stomachs. Will it please you taste of what is here? Not I. Faith, sir, you need not fear. When we were boys, who would believe that there were mountaineers, dew-lapped like bulls, whose throats had hanging at 'em wallets of flesh, or that there were such men whose heads stood in their breasts, which now we find each putter out of 5 for one will bring us good warrant of. I will stand to and feed, although my last, no matter, since I feel the best is past. Brother, my lord the duke, stand to and do as we. So the king says, let's just eat, and I don't care if it's my last meal, because my son is lost. That's the spirit of it. He's given up on Ferdinand. They've been searching everywhere, can't find him. The food comes, they'll eat irrespective of the consequences, even if it's poison food, who cares? And then the thunder and lightning, and enter Ariel, like a harpy. So one of those mythological beasts mentioned in the underworld, in Greek and Latin epics, claps his wings upon the table, and with a quaint device, the banquet vanishes. Now, again, if you want to read C.S. Lewis's this in the Voyage of the Dawn Treader, the banquet there, which appears and disappears. Remember the Voyage of the Dawn Treader? If you haven't, I think he plucks it from there. Again, contemporary authors will very willingly pluck episodes from ancient stories and utilize them themselves for their own purposes. So one of the benefits of I think a great books education is to start to pick up those sorts of things. But that's what's going on here. At any rate, but she comes in the guise of a harpy, so a figure of threat to their eyes. And then she speaks. Why did I say she? He speaks, the spirit Ariel. I'm thinking of Little Mermaid stuff. It's not the Little Mermaid, it's Ariel, the spirit. You are 3 men of sin, whom destiny that hath to instrument this lower world and what is in it, the never surfeited sea hath caused to belch up you, and on this island where man doth not inhabit, you mongst men being most unfit to live, I have made you mad, and even with such like valor men hang and drown their proper selves. Alonso, Sebastian, etc., draw their swords, And Ariel, you fools, I and my fellows are ministers of fate. The elements of whom your swords are tempered may as well wound the loud winds, or with be mocked at stabs, kill the still closing waters, as diminish one dowel that's in my plume. My fellow ministers are like invulnerable. If you could hurt, your swords are now too massy for your strength and will not be uplifted. And at that point, if you're doing it, your sword drops because it suddenly gets too heavy. But remember, for that's my business to you, that you three from Milan did supplant good Prospero, exposed unto the sea, which hath requited him and his innocent child, for which foul deed the powers, delaying, not forgetting, have incensed the sea and shores, yea, all the creatures against your peace. Thee of thy son, Alonso, they have bereft, and do pronounce by me lingering perdition, worse than any death can be at once, shall step by step attend you in your ways, whose wraths to guard you from, which here in this most desolate isle else falls upon your heads, is nothing but heart's sorrow and a clear life ensuing. And then he vanishes in thunder. Then to soft music enter the shapes again and dance with mocks and mouths and carrying out the table. Bravely the figure, and Prospero in commentary on this, and again, they don't see or hear Prospero. Bravely the figure of this harpy hast thou performed, my Ariel, a grace it had. Devouring of my instruction hast thou nothing bated in what thou hadst to say. So with good life and observation strange, my meaner ministers their several kinds have done. My high charms work, and these mine enemies are all knit up in their distractions. They now are in my power, and in these fits I leave them, while I visit young Ferdinand, whom they suppose is drowned, and his and mine loved darling. And then he disappears. Then we go back to the scene of the gentleman. In the name of something holy, sir, why stand you in this strange stare? King of Naples. Oh, it is monstrous, monstrous. Methought the billows spoke and told me of it. The winds did sing it to me, and the thunder, that deep and dreadful organ pipe, pronounced the name of Prosper. It did base my trespass. Therefore my son in the ooze is bedded, and I'll seek him deeper than e'er plummet sounded, and with him there lied mudded. And then he goes. But one fiend at a time I'll fight their legions o'er. I'll be thy second. And Sebastian and Antonio go after him. Gonzalo, the old counselor, all three of them are desperate. Their great guilt, like poison given to work a great time after, now gins to bite the spirits. I do beseech you that are of suppler joints, follow them swiftly and hinder them from what this ecstasy may now provoke them to. And then Adrian, follow, I pray you, and they go after them. Exeunt omnes, everyone exits. Act 4, Scene 1. So he keeps shifting around. Prospero and Ariel. At this point, the dramaturge figure is inserting himself in the scene, but he's presiding over it and making sure Ariel does his bidding. Ariel is now judging them for their trespasses, causing chaos, but also offering a banquet of grace and so forth, which they receive with hostility at this point. They see it not as a table that they're invited to, it's a table that will poison them. A bit like, again, in the last battle, when the dwarves are given this feast in front of them, they think that they're being given rubbish. They won't eat it. It tastes terrible, don't want to eat this. That's how they receive it, because they perceive only judgment in the offering, because for them it is only judgment. That's what the table is. It's the sacrifice of Christ's body and blood. And they have not accepted that atonement for themselves. So it is a curse to them, but that's why they dare not eat it. I think that's what's going on in these scenes. Anyway, but we're not done yet. That's the first invitation to the table. Act 4, Scene 1. Enter Prospero, Ferdinand, and Miranda. If I have too austerely punished you, your compensation makes amends. For I have given you here a third of mine own life. or that for which I live, who once again I tender to thy hand. All thy vexations were but trials of thy love, and thou hast strangely stood the test. Here, afore heaven, I ratify this my rich gift. O Ferdinand, do not smile at me, that I boast her off, for thou shalt find she will outstrip all praise and make it halt behind her. I do believe it against an oracle. Then, as my gift and thine own acquisition, worthily purchased, take my daughter. But if thou dost break her virgin not before all sanctimonious ceremonies may with full and holy rite be ministered, no sweet aspersion shall the heavens let fall to make this contract grow, but barren hate, sour-eyed disdain, and discord shall bestrew the union of your bed with weeds so loathly that you shall hate it both. Therefore take heed, as Hymen's lamps shall light you. Okay, so you're married, but whatever you do, don't consummate the marriage, or you're going to get weeds and you'll be cursed and whatever. Like, okay, so you're married. But wait. And Ferdinand, so it's a strange, well, welcome to the family, but don't be too quick here. Hold off. The marriage ceremony is yet to come. As I hope for quiet days, fair issue, and long life, with such love as 'tis now the murkiest den, this the most opportune place, the strongest suggestion our worser genius can, shall never melt mine honor unto lust, to take away the edge of that day's celebration, when I shall think or Phoebus' steeds are foundered, or night kept chain below. Barely spoke. Sir, then, sit then and talk with her, she is thine own. What? Ariel, my industrious servant, Ariel. Enter Ariel. What wouldst, my potent master? Here I am. Thou and thy meaner fellows your last service did worthily perform, and I must use you in such another trick. Go, bring the rabble, or whom I gave thee power, here to this place. Incite them to quick motion, for I must bestow upon the eyes of this young couple some vanity of mine art. It is my promise, and they expect it from me. Presently, I with a wink, before you can say come and go, and breathe twice and cry so, each one tripping on his toe, will be here with mop and mow. Do you love me, master? No? Dearly, my delicate Ariel, do not approach till thou dost hear me call. Well, I conceive. Look'st thou be true, do not give dalliance too much the rein. The strongest oaths are straw to the fire the blood. Be more abstemious, or else good night your vow. I warrant you, sir, the white cold virgin snow upon my heart abates the ardor of my liver. Well, come, my Ariel, being a corollary, rather than want a spirit, appear, and pertly, no tongue, all eyes, be silent. And then the soft music begins. And what comes then is the figures of Iris and Ceres. So the god Iris, the goddess of the rainbow, Juno's messenger. Ceres, the goddess of agriculture, and Juno, the queen of the sky, gets mentioned here. Pluto is mentioned, that is Dis, god of the underworld. Cupid, the blind boy, mentioned in 90. There's all sorts of Greek and Roman deities invoked here to celebrate a marriage at this point. And so what Shakespeare does here, which is typical of the Renaissance period, is use classical figures and personages to solemnize a Christian meaning and give a Christian meaning. It's very common in Renaissance poetry. It's not paganism per se, it's using pagan images, but for a Christian purpose. My take on it at any rate. But we'll see. I enter Iris, as I said, Iris, the goddess of the rainbow and the messenger of Juno. Ceres, most bounteous lady, thy rich lees of wheat, rye, barley, fetches, oats, and peas, thy turfy mountains where live nibbling sheep, and flat meads thatched with stover, them to keep, thy banks with pioned and twilled brims, which spongy April at thy best betrims, to make cold nymphs chaste crowns, and thy broom groves whose shadow the dismissed bachelor loves, being last lorn, thy pole-clipped vineyard, and thy sea marge, sterile and rocky hard, where thou thyself dost stir, the queen of the sky, whose watery arch and messenger am I, bids thee leave these, and with her sovereign grace, here on this grass plot, in this very place, to come and sport. Her peacocks fly amain, and then Juno descends slowly in her car. And Juno is the goddess of marriage. Okay, so now the marriage rites ensue. Ceres, the goddess of the harvest and of agriculture and the fruits of agriculture, of marriage, their productivity of the earth is a symbol of the productivity of the human union, children, and so forth. So she comes along as well and says this, enter Ceres, hail many-colored messenger, Iris, that ne'er dost disobey the wife of Jupiter, who with thy saffron wings upon my flowers diffusest honey drops, refreshing showers, and with each end of thy blue bow dost crown my bosky acres and my unshrubbed down. Rich scarf to my proud earth, why hath thy queen summoned me hither to this short grassed green? A contract of true love to celebrate, and some donation freely to a state on the blessed lovers. And then Ceres, tell me, heavenly bow, if Venus or her son, Cupid, as thou dost know, do now attend the queen, since they did plot the means that dusky dis my daughter got, her and her blind boys sandaled company I have forsworn. Reference to the myth of Proserpine, Pluto taking Proserpine, Ceres' daughter, to the underworld. Reference to that myth. Shakespeare will have read Ovid's Metamorphoses, like everyone in the medieval period, very much populates his imagery. So they didn't believe in the myths per se, but they were images and stories that they happily used for their own ends and employed them that here. And then Iris' response, of her society be not afraid. I met her deity cutting the clouds near Paphos, and her son dove drawn with her. Here thought they had to have done some wanton charm upon this man and maid, whose vows are that no bed right shall be paid till Hymen's torch be lighted. But in vain, Mars' hot minion is returned again, her waspish-headed son has broken his arrows, swears he will shoot no more, but play with sparrows and be a boy right out. And now Juno comes down, alights. Ceres, highest queen of state, great Juno comes, I know her by her gait. And then Juno, how does my bounteous sister go with me to bless this twain, that they may prosperous be, and honored in their issue? And then they sing. Both Juno and then Ceres joins her in the midst of the song. Honors, riches, marriage blessing, long continuance and increasing, hourly joys be still upon you. Juno sings her blessings on you. Earth's increase, foison plenty, barns and garners never empty, vines with clustering bunches growing, plants with goodly burthen bowing. Spring come to you at the farthest, in the very end of harvest. Scarcity and want shall shun you, Ceres' blessing so is on you. And then Ferdinand, in response to all this is a most majestic vision, and harmonious charmingly. May I be bold to think these spirits, he says to Prospero, and in response, spirits which by mine art I have from their confines called to enact my present fancies. Let me live here forever. So rare a wondered father and a wise makes this place paradise. So the art of Prospero is a means of blessing his now soon-to-be son-in-law, and using all of the means of knowledge to his purpose is to bless the union of his daughter and his son. Juno's and Ceres whisper, and they send Iris on employment. And sweet now, silence. Juno's and Ceres whisper seriously, there's something else to do. Hush and be mute, or else our spell is marred. And then Iris, you nymphs called naiads of the wandering brooks, with your sedged crowns and ever harmless looks, leave your crisp channels, and on this green land answer your summons. Juno does command, come, temperate nymphs, and help to celebrate a contract of true love. He not too late. Now the nymphs come in. You sunburned sicklemen of August weary, come hither from the furrow and be merry. Make holiday, your rye straw hats put on, and these fresh nymphs encounter every one in country footing. Enter certain reapers, properly habited, they join with the nymphs in a grateful dance, towards the end whereof Prospero starts suddenly and speaks, after which to a strange, hollow, and confused noise they heavily vanish. And why? Because Prospero, in his love of his arts, has forgotten politics yet again. He gets too caught up in the good that he does through his arts and forgets that he has to constrain and restrain evil. In a sense, it's a picture. Prospero, I said he's a dramaturge figure. He's also like Adam, in the sense that Adam is called to tend and to guard the garden. And he doesn't guard the garden. Satan gets in. And Prospero is almost repeating his original mistake of forgetting that he has to be vigilant. And in the meantime, there are those there that want to kill him. And he suddenly starts and says, as an aside, I had forgot that foul conspiracy of the beast Caliban and his confederates against my life. The minute of their plot is almost come. And then to the spirits, well done, avoid, no more. And then Ferdinand, this is strange. Your father's in some passion that works him strongly. And then Miranda, never till this day saw I him touched with anger, so distempered. And then the famous speech, the most famous speech of the whole play. You do look, my son, in a moved sort, as if you were dismayed. Be cheerful, sir. Our revels now are ended. These, our actors, as I foretold you, were all spirits, and are melted into air, into thin air. And like the baseless fabric of this vision, the cloud-capped towers, the gorgeous palaces, the solemn temples, the great globe itself, yea, all which is it inherit shall dissolve, and like this insubstantial pageant faded, leave not a rack behind. We are such stuff as dreams are made on, and our little life is rounded with a sleep. Sir, I am vexed. Bear with my weakness. My old brain is troubled. Be not disturbed with my infirmity. If you be pleased, retire into my cell and there repose. A turn or two I'll walk to still my beating mind. And then both Fernando and Miranda, the happy couple, we wish your peace. And then Prospero to Ariel, come with a thought. And then to them, I thank thee. And so Ariel, come. Enter Ariel. Thy thoughts I cleave to. What's thy pleasure? Spirit, we must prepare to meet with Caliban. I, my commander, when I presented Ceres, I thought to have told thee of it, but I feared lest I might anger thee. Say again, where didst thou leave these varlets, these criminals? I told you, sir, they were red hot with drinking, so full of valor that they smote the air for breathing in their faces, beat the ground for kissing of their feet, yet always bending towards their project. Then I beat my tabor, at which they, like unbacked colts, they pricked their ears, advanced their eyelids, lifted up their noses as they smelt music. So I charmed their ears, that calf-like they may be, by lowing followed through tooth briars, sharp furze, pricking goss and thorns, which entered their frail shins. At last I left them in the filthy mantled pool beyond your cell, there dancing up to the chins, that the foul lake or stunk their feet. This was well done, my bird. Thy shape invisible, retain thou still. The trumpery in my house, go bring it hither, for stale to catch these thieves. I go, exit. And then Prospero, a devil, a born devil, on whose nature nurture can never stick. Now he's commenting on Caliban. He's tried to reform him. He's been merciful to him. He sought to make him better than he was, but at the outcome of all of that is simply that he sought to murder him and rape his daughter. And so this pronouncement, a devil, a born devil, on whose nature nurture can never stick, on whom my pains humanely taken, all lost, quite lost. And as with age his body uglier grows, so his mind cankers. I will plague them all, even to roaring. And now enter Adriel, loaden with glistering apparel, etc. Come, hang them on this line. And Prospero and Ariel remain invisible, and now the figures of Caliban, Stefano, and Trinculo, all wet, enter. They're bad characters, thoroughly bad. Pray you, tread softly, that the blind mole may not hear a footfall. We now are near his cell, says Caliban. Stefano, monster, your fairy, which you say is a harmless fairy, has done little better than played the jack with us. Monster, I do smell all horse piss, at which my nose is in great indignation. So is mine. Do you hear, monster? If I should take displeasure against you, look you, thou wert but a lost monster. And then Caliban, good my lord, give me thy favor still. Be patient, for the prize I'll bring thee to shall hoodwink this mischance. Therefore speak softly, all's hushed as midnight yet. Aye, but to lose our bottles in the pool. There is not only disgrace and dishonor in that, monster, but an infinite loss. They're upset because they've lost their alcohol. That's why they're so beside themselves. An infinite loss. That's more to me than my wetting. Yet this is your harmless fairy, monster. I will fetch off my bottle, though I be o'er ears for my labor. I'm going to jump in the lake to get it. Anyway. Prithee, my king, be quiet. Seest thou here? This is the mouth of the cell. No noise, and enter. Do that good mischief which may make this island thine own forever, and I thy, Caliban, for I thy foot licker. Give me thy hand. I do begin to have bloody thoughts. Oh, King Stefano, oh, peer, oh, worthy Stefano, look what a wardrobe here is for thee. Let it alone, thou fool. It is but trash. Oh, monster, we know what belongs to a frippery. Oh, King Stefano, put off that gown, Trinculo. By this hand I'll have that gown. Thy grace shall have it. And then Caliban, the dropsy drown this fool. What do you mean to dote thus on such luggage? Let it alone, and do the murder first. If he awake, and toe to crown, he'll fill our skins with pinches, and make us strange stuff. Be you quiet, monster. Mistress Line, is not this my jerkin? Putting on the clothes, jacket. Now, is the jerkin under the line? Now, jerkin, you are like to lose your hair and prove a bald jerkin. Do. We steal by line and level, and to like your grace. I thank thee for that jest. Here's a garment for it, which shall not go unrewarded while I am king of this country. Steal by line and level is an excellent passive pate. Here's another garment for it. Monster, come put some lime upon your fingers and away with the rest. I will have none of it. We shall lose our time and all be turned to barnacles or to apes with foreheads villainous low. Monster, lay to your fingers, help to bear this way while my hogshead of wine is, or I'll turn you out of my kingdom. Go to, tarry this, and this, yeah, and this. A noise of hunters heard. Enter diverse spirits in shape of dogs and hounds, hunting them about, Prospero and Ariel setting them on. And then Prospero, hey, mountain, hey, Ariel, silver, there it goes, silver. And then Prospero, fury, fury, there, tyrant, there, hark, hark. Caliban, Stefano, and Trinculo are driven out. And then Prospero, go, charge my goblins that they grind their joints with dry convulsions, shorten up their sinews with aged cramps, and more pinch-spotted make them than pard or cat of the mountain. Hark, they roar. Let them be hunted soundly. At this hour lies at my mercy all mine enemies. Shortly shall all my labors end, and thou shalt have the air at freedom. For a little follow and do me service. And then they go out. So, end of Act 4, enter Act 5, and basically the story or the conflict is over, and we will get the celebration. But first, the famous scene of Prospero dispensing with his robes. Remember his robes, a symbol of his arts. I talked about the robes that go with various offices in the Western tradition, whether you're an academic or a judge or a doctor or a priest or a magistrate or a king. You wear robes, and the robes are representative of the arts that you represent in the political or the legal or the medical office. All of this is represented here, I think, in the robe here, the magic robes, the power of the arts to do wondrous things, tapping into God's own ways in all this. So Prospero in his magic robes and Ariel. Now does my project gather to a head, says Prospero. My charms crack not, my spirits obey, and time goes upright with his carriage. How's the day? On the 6th hour, at which time, my Lord, you said our work should cease. What happens at the 6th hour in Scripture? Crucifixion. Yeah. Now, I don't want to overstate it here, but it's the 6th hour. That it's never insignificant. Why does he mention the 6th hour here? Could just be random, but think about it a little bit. We'll see if it is just so. I did say so when first I raised the tempest. Say, my spirit, how fares the king and his followers? Confined together in the same fashion as you gave in charge, just as you left them, all prisoners, sir, in the lying grove which weather fends yourself. They cannot budge without your release. The king, his brother, and yours abide all three distracted, and the remainder mourning over them, brimful of sorrow and dismay. But chiefly him that you termed, sir, the good old Lord Gonzalo. His tears runs down his beard like winter's drops from eaves of reeds. Your charm so strongly works him, that if you now beheld them, your affections would become tender. Dost thou think so, spirit? Mine would, sir, were I human, and mine shall. Hast thou, which art but air, a touch, a feeling of their afflictions? And shall not myself, one of their kind, that relish all as sharply passion as they, be kindlier moved than thou art? Though with their high wrongs I am strook to the quick, yet with my nobler reason, 'gainst my fury do I take part. The rarer action is in virtue than in vengeance. They being penitent, the sole drift of my purpose doth extend not a frown further. Go release them, Ariel. My charms I'll break, their senses I'll restore, and they shall be themselves. I'll fetch them, sir. So the godlike forgiveness now, his purposes having been enacted and brought to their right conclusion, they're brought to repentance, and he can now be reconciled with them. In the 6th hour, a worthy reconciliation and a marriage, etc., that will ensue. So I'll fetch them, sir. Prospero traces a magic circle with his staff. And then again, yet another famous speech, second most famous in the whole of the play. Ye elves of hills, brooks, standing lakes and groves, and ye that on the sands with printless foot do chase the ebbing Neptune, and do fly him when he comes back. you demi-puppets that by moonshine do the green sour ringlets make, whereof the ewe not bites, and you whose pastime is to make midnight mushrooms, that rejoice to hear the solemn curfew, by whose aid, weak masters though ye be, I have bedimmed the noontide sun, called forth the mutinous winds, and betwixt the green sea and the azured vault set roaring war. To the dread rattling thunder have I given fire, and rifted Jove's stout oak with his own bolt, and strong based promontory have I made shake, and by the spurs plucked up the pine and cedar. Graves at my command have waked their sleepers, oped and let 'em forth by my so potent art. But this rough magic I here abjure, and when I have required some heavenly music, which even now I do, to work mine end upon their senses, that this airy charm is for, I'll break my staff, bury it certain fathoms in the earth, and deeper than did ever plummet sound, I'll drown my book. Grace overtakes the art. He no longer needs the art. Theology, the queen of the sciences. The sciences are there to serve the theological purpose that God intended it for. And the graves at my command awake their sleepers. Again, there's a messianic aspect to the whole passage that anyone who's read scripture will hear in his words. The solemn music, the music of the spheres, the heavenly music that comes with the quadrivium. It's part of the 4 liberal arts related to number. Are going to ensue, and a wondrous scene ensues. So enters Ariel before, then Alonso with a frantic gesture, attended by Gonzalo, Sebastian, and Antonio in like manner, attended by Adrian and Francisco, and they all enter the circle which Prospero had made, and there stand charmed, which Prospero observing speaks. A solemn air, and the best comforter to an unsettled fancy. Cure thy brains, now useless, boiled within thy skull. There stand, for you are spell-stopped. Holy Gonzalo, honorable man, mine eyes, even sociable to the show of thine, fall fellowly drops. The charm dissolves apace, and as the morning steals upon the night, melting the darkness, so their rising senses begin to chase the ignorant fumes that mantle their clearer reason, O good Gonzalo, my true preserver, and a loyal sir, to him thou followest. I will pay thy graces home both in word and deed. Most cruelly didst thou, Alonso, use me and my daughter. Thy brother was a furtherer in the act. Thou art pinched for it now, Sebastian, flesh and blood, you, brother mine, and that entertained ambition, expelled remorse, and nature, whom with Sebastian, whose inward pinches therefore are most strong, would here have killed your king. I do forgive thee. Unnatural though thou art, their understanding begins to swell, and the approaching tide will shortly fill the reasonable shores that now lie foul and muddy. Not one of them that yet looks on me or would know me. Ariel, fetch me the hat and rapier in my cell. So now he goes and is going to put on the hat and the rapier of a duke. Not going to wear the master of the arts things. He's going to look like a prince. Now you'll recognize me. I will discase me and myself present as I was sometime Milan. Quickly, spirit, thou shalt ere long be free. Ariel sings and helps to attire him. And then Ariel, where the bee sucks, there suck I. In a cowslip bell I lie. Where there I couch when owls do cry. On the bat's back I do fly. After summer merrily. Merrily, merrily shall I live now under the blossom that hangs on the bough. Why, that's my dainty Ariel, I shall miss thee. But yet that thou shalt have freedom. So. To the king's ship, invisible as thou art, there shalt thou find the mariners asleep under the hatches. The master and the boatswain, being awake, enforce them to this place, and presently, I pray thee, I drink the air before me and return, or ere your pulse twice beat. Exit. Gonzalo. All torment, trouble, wonder, and amazement inhabits here. Some heavenly power guide us out of this fearful country. And then Prospero, he hasn't recognized him to this point. Behold, Sir King, the wronged Duke of Milan, Prospero, for more assurance than a living prince does now speak to thee. I embrace thy body, and to thee and thy company I bid a hearty welcome. Where'er thou beest here or no, or some enchanted trifle to abuse me, as late I have been, I not know. Thy pulse beats as of flesh and blood, and since I saw thee, the affliction of my mind amends, with which I fear a madness held me. This must crave, and if this be at all, a most strange story. Thy dukedom I resign, and do entreat thou pardon me for my wrongs. But how should Prospero be living and be here? And then to Gonzalo, first, noble friend, let me embrace thine age, whose honor cannot be measured or confined. Whether this be or be not, I'll not swear. You do yet taste some subtleties of the isle that will not let you believe things certain. Welcome, my friends all, aside to Sebastian and Antonio. But you, my brace of lords, were I so minded, I here could pluck his highness's frown upon you and justify you traitors. At this time I will tell no tales. And then Sebastian to Antonio, the devil speaks in him. No, said Prospero, for you, most wicked sir, whom to call brother would even infect my mouth, I do forgive thy rankest fault, all of them, and require my dukedom of thee, which perforce I know thou must restore. If thou beest Prospero, says Alonso, give us particulars of thy preservation. How thou hast met us here, whom 3 hours since were racked upon this shore, where I have lost, how sharp the point of this remembrance is, my dear son Ferdinand. I am woe for it, sir. Irreparable is the loss, and patience says it is past her cure. I rather think you have not sought her help, of whose soft grace for the like loss I have her sovereign aid, the rest myself content. You, the like loss? As great to me as late, and supportable to make the dear loss, have I means much weaker than you may call to comfort you, for I have lost my daughter. A daughter? Oh, heavens, that they were living both in Naples, the king and queen there, that they were, I wish myself were muddled in that oozy bed where my son lies. When did you lose your daughter? In this he doesn't understand his meaning. I've lost the daughter because I've given her away. In this last tempest, I perceive these lords at this encounter do so much admire that they devour their reason and scarce think their eyes do offices of truth. Their words are natural breath, and howsoever you have been justled from your senses, know for certain that I am Prospero, and that very Duke which was thrust forth of him in Milan, who most strangely upon this shore where you were racked was landed to be lord on it. No more yet of this, for 'tis a chronicle of day by day, not a relation for a breakfast, nor befitting this first meeting. Welcome, sir. This cell's my court. Here have I few attendants, and subjects none abroad. Pray you look in. My dukedom, since you have given me again, I will requite you with as good a thing, at least bring forth a wonder to content ye as much as me my dukedom. And then they, looking inside, see Ferdinand and Miranda playing chess. What else would they be doing? Well, they could be doing all sorts of things, but they were sworn not to do anything of the sort, so they're playing chess. Anyway, never mind. I'm going to have to skip over because I've just realized I read too much. So there's a reconciliation here and a judgment upon Caliban, but a restoration then to all of the relationships which had been left, had broken, in the same way like Odysseus coming home to his country. He's restored back to his rightful place, and the evil that has been brought into his realm has been dealt with justly, but unlike Odysseus, graciously. He's pardoned them rather than killing those who opposed him. So it's a different form of justice, but all in reflection of the grace of God. And I want to conclude with the epilogue, but he asks them to draw near, and the epilogue, spoken by Prospero, walks to the front of the stage on his own. Now my charms are all o'erthrown, and what strength I have's mine own, which is most faint. Now 'tis true I must be here confined by you, or sent to Naples. Now he's speaking to the audience. Let me not, since I have my dukedom got, and pardoned the deceiver, dwell in this bare island by your spell, but release me from my bands with the help of your good hands. Gentle breath of yours my sails must fill, or else my project fails, which was to please. Now I want spirits to enforce, art to enchant, and my ending is despair unless I be relieved by prayer, which pierces so that it assaults mercy itself and frees all faults. As you from crimes would pardoned be, let your indulgence set me free. So he's just asking for their applause. But note that he does it in a reflection of the act of grace that he showed there, and releasing him from with applause, with joy. All of it is a stage. Note that he talks about his sole power being to please and to teach and to delight. He's there to delight, but he's taught throughout, and he's taught the grace of God in his person. So it's a great conclusion to Shakespeare's works in this sense. It's a great last play. I argued for the Christian significance of the text, and I think you could see it in it at any rate. I hope so at any rate, but that's it. Our revels here are ended.